Okay, then we have the third type of problem you'll have, which is the right triangle divided by an altitude with all the different sides mixed in, and they've given us 2. They'll always give you 2, and then you need to find the other 3. Sometimes you'll see you only have to find one other one. That's all the question asks for, but oftentimes they'll want you to go ahead and solve for all of them. As you'll see, the reason I picked this one's a little trickier than the others, and you'll see why. It's just a little more complicated algebraically because they haven't given us this full side here, and so you'll see why that's tricky in just a second. But first, let's review the relationships. The relationships for solving these is, again, 1, the altitude, so in this case, x squared is equal to these 2 sides multiplied together, z times 18. You can see right away, look, I have 2 variables, so this is not the first one I'll be able to solve. So we'll come back to that later. The other one is that the rooftops, as I'm calling it, the slants, that y squared is equal to its corresponding side, z, times the entire broken up length, which in this case would be z plus 18. Notice again, I have 2 variables, z and y, so I'm not going to be solving this one first either. But then I have the corresponding one of that, and that is this side squared, so 6 square root 13 squared is equal to its corresponding side, 18, times the full side, z plus 18. Okay, and so these are the 3 relationships we went over in the homework, and this could be one way that you recognize where to start. Notice this one I have 1 variable, z. So this is the one I'm going to be able to solve, and then once I solve for z, dominoes will allow me to solve for the other 2 variables. So let's go ahead and start with this one. The other reason this might be intimidating, and you'll have another one like this, I think number 25, the numbers are kind of big. That's why, for the most part, I have no problem with you using it. I don't have a problem with you using a calculator. If it's easy for you and you want to keep developing your ability to do mental math, maybe leave the calculator aside as much as possible. But if you're struggling to learn this, don't waste energy over multiplication. Get your calculator out. You can use it on quizzes. You can use it on tests. Just use it. So we're going to go ahead and start by solving this. And again, one of the reasons I said this one's a little more complicated is, 1, they're giving you a radical as one of your distances, so that might be a little scary. And because, notice, we had to do this step of adding z plus 18. So I'm going to have to distribute. I've got parentheses in this. But all I did was, again, it was this side, the 18 side, that corresponded to the one up here, times the entire length, which I'm going to have to say then that's z plus 18. So let's work through that. So the first thing, let's go ahead and see what 6 times the square root of 13 squared is. So that would be 6 times, well, what you could just do is 6 times the square root of 13 in your calculator. And then go ahead and square that answer. And so we see this is 400, this is 468 equals, and now I'm going to go ahead and distribute my 18 into my parentheses. So I'm going to get 18z plus 18 times 18. Again, you may not know what that is, so let's just go ahead and do it. 18 times 18, 324. Okay? So now we just have a simple algebraic equation to solve. We want to figure out what z is. So let's get z alone. First, I'm going to switch colors just to kind of differentiate. I'm going to subtract 324. Okay, so we can do that simply enough. 4, 4, 1. Okay, let's see if we're on the right track. I'm sure I'm capable of making lots of mistakes. No, we're good. So that's 144 equals 18z. Okay, now we get z alone. We're going to divide 18. Okay, and so if you just do that, that comes out nicely to be 8. So we have our first of the 3 variables. The rest will fall easily. Now we know that z, this distance here, is equal to 8. So now we're going to be able to backtrack and go ahead and find x and y. So which one would you like to find first? Okay, y, absolutely. Let's go ahead and find x. X is a very nice fellow. So if I'm finding x, again, remember the relationship of the altitude to the two divided pieces. It's x squared equals the two pieces down below multiplied. You can see this is going to be much simpler than what we just did, because now I just need to do my 18 times 8, as we saw back here. That is just x squared is equal to 144. So the square root of that. So x is equal to 12. Nice and pretty there. Okay. So x is 12. 2 down, 1 to go. Again, once you do a lot of these, you'll get very, very fast at them. Don't give up. Okay, so now that just leaves us y. So as you can see, again, same relationship as this over here. Y squared is equal to its corresponding piece times the entire length. So y squared, now we know both of those, so 8 times the full side, 8 plus 18, 26. So now 8 times 26. And don't worry about the big numbers. That's y squared is 208. That's a beautiful y. That way you know it's really me and not some bot teaching you. Beautiful penmanship. Okay, so then square root of y. So that means y is the square root of 208. Correct, but not simplified. Most points, but not full points. So again, if you're struggling, if you at least get to this point, great. Don't keep practicing getting to that point. Then once you feel confident, or when you feel like you got enough brain RAM, go back and make sure you can then simplify these numbers. If you're not to that point yet, just put this in your calculator. What's the square root of 208? You'll get an answer. You can go to the back of the book. It'll have a different looking answer, but if you plug that into your calculator, they should come to the same decimal number. But since we got time, we're going to go, so how would we simplify this? We want to find the biggest square root that goes into 208. That just takes practice, but there's only so many options. It could be, you just go through the numbers squared. Does 4 go into it evenly? Check it on your calculator. Or because that's 2 squared. Does 9 go into it evenly? Because that's 3 squared. Does 16 go into it evenly? Because that's 4 squared. 25, 5 squared. So there's only so many options. You're looking for the biggest square root that's a nice even square root that goes into whatever number you're trying to simplify. With a big number like this, I usually it'll always end in 5 if it's divisible by 25, so we know that's not an option. I usually don't start with a small number because I'm trying to find the biggest, so I always check something like 16. We could go ahead, we could try hit 36. See if 36 goes in there evenly. If it does, then you found a nice big one. But start big with a large number, and then if it doesn't go in evenly, just try the next one down. So if you do this by trial and error, you'll see that 16 actually goes in there evenly 13 times. 16 times 13 is 208. So that means that y is equal to the square root of 16 times the square root of 13. And again, the point of dividing that up is I can take the square root of this. That is 4. Square root of 16 is 4. 13 cannot be simplified, so that means y is equal to 4 square root 13. And so there are your 3 answers. 12, 4 root 13, and 8. Okay. Notice all that last bit of talking about was simply simplifying my radical here. So work on that once you feel confident at least getting to that point. All right, again, please don't hesitate. Zoom chat me, help me, Mr. Mefford, with such and such a number, or Zoom chat somebody else in the class and have them help you. But ask questions, get help. If you sit passively back and get overwhelmed by it, the next lesson tomorrow, again, it'll start to pile up. So I encourage you, get the help that you need. Watch this video, reach out to me. I'd be happy to explain it. In fact, you can get more one-on-one time now with this situation than we had even during regular school. So it's a great opportunity that if you want to learn this, I and others are here to help you. So have a great day. Happy Tuesday.